Hey everyone, today we're going to analyze the paneling of One Piece chapter 1110. I really liked how it showcased the unique new character designs, and there was some creative action paneling as well. I enjoy these mid-climax sections of the arcs, where the tension is high and so much is happening. Sure, we might have to keep waiting week to week to see how it plays out, but it's exciting. So let's get right into the analysis. The Gorosei are important enough villains that even before we get a full view of them, we take a full double page just to build up tension. First, the cinematic visual storytelling of their inky forms morphing out of the summoning circles. Then their dark silhouettes, conveying evil and mystery, but also emphasizing their shapes. Each one has a totally distinct shape from the others, which is pretty important for this kind of goon squad. They all have to be memorable and stand out from each other. Each member of the Gorosei has their own unique power and form they can turn into, and is an individual threat, so we're emphasizing that from the start with these different silhouettes. But we're not done building tension. I've talked before about one-by-one paneling, with the Scabbards and with Rox's crew. It's when you have one panel per character like this and make sure to show all of them. This technique emphasizes that each one is of individual importance, each one holds weight. And of course, having small panels of tight shots where we don't see much of them makes us want to see a full view of their designs and just a larger shot in general. And that's what we get. A full page spread is necessary to show scale here, and I don't mean just to draw how big they are. I mean to draw how small Luffy is, without it turning into just scribbles. Scale only has meaning when you see it relative to normal things, and relative to the environment too. The grid-like floor below helps establish distance and space directly. A lot of people argue about whether or not Oda should do more full-page spreads like this again. I don't think that one kind of page is inherently better than others, but each one is a different kind of tool that should be used when it's appropriate. The reason he used a full page here is because when showing off 5 new character designs at once that are extremely imposing and are a new level of threat that we've never faced before, he needs to use a kind of page that will make the reader slow down to take in not just the scale but the detail too. The rest of the Gorosei share Saturn's motif of harsh black and white contrast. It makes it funny in retrospect how we always saw them in black and white suits. While their silhouettes are all different, this unifying factor shows us that they're still one group. There's not a lot of characters that are drawn this way, unless there's like a zebra mink or a zebra zoan out there. Is there? Anyway, it makes them feel like they're a different kind of thing, different from the devil fruit users we're used to. There's a reason that everyone assumed that Saturn was turning into a demon, not just a giant spider. Because it's the first time we're seeing all of them, the page really emphasizes that harsh contrast is their unique design feature by contrasting the contrast itself, shading the ground and Luffy all gray without any of that harshness. Manga pages are read from right to left, and they were all facing left on the page before, so there's a right to left flow for the eye to go across that still aligns with where they're facing. But if all of them were facing straight to the left, the page would feel imbalanced. You don't want it to feel like they're looking off page when they should be focused on Luffy below. So to keep it balanced, while the ones on the right are fully facing left, the ones on the left are more varied, with the horse pointing left but facing right, and the worm's body pointing right but its head facing left. A good composition should fill out the page and draw the eye to all 4 corners. The X-shaped composition of this page is more prominently aligned with the Gorosei, but the bottom half goes from Saturn's legs down along the rubble and to the sound effects. My favorite subtle detail is how Saturn's claws reach around Luffy. They don't quite trap him, he still has room to escape, but there's a little bit of danger threatening him. I was a little confused by the choices on the next page at first until I understood what they were going for. The Gorosei's motion is from right to left, and Venus Juro is running towards the Pacifista, but for some reason the Pacifista is facing right and Venus Juro is drawn to the left of him despite going towards it. The zoom in is definitely nice, especially with how Venus Juro's transforming head is always pointing toward his target, but the page overall is strange. It clicked once I got that it's about Venus Juro being behind the Pacifista to surprise it. The Pacifista is facing right, so Venus Juro charging in has to be to the left. All of those discordant elements come together in harmony once we turn the page. Pacifista facing right, Venus Juro being on the left, yet the right to left flow in the horse's motion and the sword swing. The choices on the page before make more sense when we see that it was building to this. The quick transition from Venus Juro being at a high distance to being right there really sells his speed. I like how the downward then upward flow is emphasized further by the curved ground below, and I love how the white slashing effect stands out against the Pacifista's black body, while the black blade stands out against Venus Juro's white body. Great balance in the panel. The panel of Mars approaching the core is multi-layered, and not just in the literal multiple layers of the composition between the core, Mars, and the coast. These concentric curves emphasize the core at the implied center, which matches how it's the target under assault, and is surrounded by lines of defense. The harsh black and white shading again makes Mars stand out against everything else, especially as he's high in the sky, in the foreground of the image. The Gorosei do consider themselves above everyone else, don't they? But he's also in between Vegapunk's core and the Marines, visually matching his current role in the battle, as he's the one going in ahead while the Marines are stuck behind. Finally, as the eye travels down his body, it's led right into Venus Juro running, again enhancing his sense of speed. One of my favorite things about One Piece fight scenes is how physical they are. Jupiter digging into the ground in order to pop up and swallow Luffy to surprise him is rooted in physical motions, in a way that doesn't really need text to explain why it would work. The paneling of this particular beat isn't insane, but even so, One Piece fight scenes are always built this way. And there's a sense of relative smallness to it happening compared to the response. Size on the page is importance and power. That's why Jupiter's gaping maw gets a larger panel than him first popping up. But Jupiter just doesn't hold that much weight when Dory and Broggy can do this to him in the dominant panel of the page. Their attack is a really difficult one to panel because it's got two motions going in opposite directions. So there's not much you can do about the fact that the eye is going in the opposite direction as one of them as it travels up into the panel. What's important is that the overall motion of two attacks closing against each other like a pair of scissors is clear. There are 4 characters in this panel, each doing their own thing, and yet each one's position and motion is clear. I like the S-shaped curve their attacks make, and how each one emphasizes the size of the giants. You could call this page an X-shaped composition, or call it a composition of 3 concentric circles, but either way it looks great, and Luffy shines brightly in the middle, with the simple fact that he's drawn upside down conveying something about how carefree he is. Luffy has been drawn very small for this entire chapter, compared to the things happening around him, which nicely matches the world-level situation he's gotten himself into. But I think we'll soon see how even someone small can change big things. Subscribe for more, comment what you thought, like, and all of that banana business. Probably gonna set up YouTube channel memberships and a Patreon in the next few weeks, by the way. You'll hear about that when it's happening.